As an introduction to the simulation tool, I want to quickly explain why this tool exists and the problem that it's trying to solve. I used to make these 4 scenes and landscapes, and one of them is Forteventura, and is made up out of these large scans that I did. And the problem there was the geometry is just not sharp enough, the texture resolution won't hold up. When you're using this in-game, you kind of have to place it around in awkward ways, and eventually it just made a lot more sense to break this down into smaller components. And for this, I needed a tool that would simulate in the level and keep performance and memory in mind. All right, here at the top we have keyboard shortcuts, we have a roadmap, we have current instance count, as well as game thread. This will tell you the performance of your CPU. The more you're spawning, this will go up, as well as it's good to point out editor windows and blueprints will affect this, so make sure to minimize that. And then if we begin by pressing start simulating, the engine will be put into simulation mode, and then left shift left mouse, we can start to spawn our rocks. And you can see here where we first clicked in the scene, this is where the actor gets spawned, and this is our 0 location. And then with the shift right mouse, we can start to brush our rocks around. And then if we're happy with this, we can press bake transform, and then here we have our actor. Alright, let's start another one. Here our actor gets spawned where we clicked, and then we could say sleep physics. Everything is still active, but it's just not being updated. So if you were to now interact with it again, they start to move around again, unlike disable physics. Disable physics is good if you have something that you like and you can just continue. Your performance is a lot less affected here on your CPU. And if you want to, you can enable everything again to make sure that they interact as they should. And then you say bake transform, and we have our new actor. Alright, so now let's create something a little larger than that. So we can increase our radius and we can start spawning. And you can see now that there's a sphere that appeared on screen, and this is our culling radius. What this does is everything outside here will get removed. And the purpose of that is performance. If any of these rocks are on screen, it will consider it to be rendered, and per instance it will try and figure out if it needs to render it or not, and you don't want that cost to increase. And to manage that, it's best to have smaller radiuses. So now what we can do is actually make this smaller. Let's see where we are, and let's demonstrate this. So now if we hit bake, everything outside has disappeared and we just have this one left. Now we also have a culling floor height, and this is in world space. Anything that will kind of fall through the map will get culled. You can adjust this one, but you can also just leave it as it is. This is the continuous spawn method. We have single, and then a max instance count. 5,000 is a good number. I think 10,000 is likely pushing it. I need to test some more on that, but just to avoid too much data in one of these components. Then push strength with left control, left mouse. And then with right mouse we can pull it towards us as well. And then we have the vortex here. Height to spawn from. And then simulated is the map or the folder that we're going to spawn in. And then if we were to take a look here at the outliner, here it is. And then bake transform, we got another actor in here. Alright, so component settings. Visible and ray tracing, we really don't need small content to affect this at all. So hardware, lumen is also affected by this, just don't. Same as indirect and some of the other lighting. Contact is fine though. This one you can set to 800 for instance. By default it is 5,000. And I can show real quick what that does. If we were to spawn something new, we have to actually bake the transforms to get that to work. And this will save you some performance, so make sure if you have a lot of things that it does not render infinite. Collision, we can just leave that as it is unless you really need it for some specific reason. Shadow cache, keep it static, there's no reason to invalidate this. Receive decals, if you're wondering why it's not working, you should kind of have it off by default. And then height offset, it is important to point out that you need to select the actual actor here. And then you can lower or higher it based on its position. And this is good if you want to move some of the rocks a little bit into the terrain to get that like sunken feeling. Otherwise they will just lay on top. Alright, nanite coming soon. Switch to fallback distance where you want to change some of the nanite settings or disallow it. Alright, light cache, let's take a look. I'm not going to spawn too many instances right now because it gets heavy. It might feel like the editor is freezing up, but don't worry, it's actually doing something. By default, it's going into your custom data index 3. And you have a normal 1 sample and 6 samples, depending on how you want to average it. This is a lot more accurate, but it will take a long time. So for this, I want to have a progress bar in the next update, so you actually see what's going on. If we were to go to our material here for the rock, we can actually see there are some different custom indexes here. And we want to make sure that this is connected. It's actually the color right now that is visible. There we go. For this to work, you have to make sure that you have the actor selected. We have in this case, and then we can say sample scene lighting. And this might take a minute. I'm just going to skip straight through it. All right, and this is quite heavy. We might be able to manipulate that a little bit here in the material, but let's try the high quality straight away. And I'm going to skip straight forward to when it's done. It might take a minute again. Well, that took a couple minutes. Let's take a look here. You see it's very sensitive to these changes, but here we go. This option could be very good to add another layer of ambient occlusion to your instances. And for me, I'm going to try and see if I can replace the light bake for this. There's no reason to light bake any of this sort of data, but you can store it very cheaply like this instead to get some sort of approximation. All right, let's have a look at color sampling. Here we need to change this in the material to use 0, 1, and 2. And then in the database we have a color material here that is applied to the plane underneath. For this to work again, you need to select the actor and then we can press sample color. I'm going to skip forward until this is done. And now it has captured the color underneath every instance and it stores it in RGB. Besides working on the roadmap, I'm going to start focusing on creating 3D scans that will be included as starter content in the plugin. Please do take a look at the 2 versions that exist. One is the production tool that has everything in it that I just demonstrated, and the other is a simple base function, and the other holds the base functionality of this plugin. Just take a look at the website, please, so you can figure out the differences between the 2. It is available on Gumroad right now. It will directly support me and hopefully soon on the Unreal Marketplace. I'm really looking forward to seeing how people are going to use this, and hopefully it will help your project out. Oh yeah, Nelson. Yeah, exactly.